world, and welcome back. This is DxO, and I'm Don. This is my little channel where I share with you some of my editing in DxO Photolab 5. So I'm doing a photo a day project through 2022, and I just thought it would be interesting to share some of my edits as I go along, just to put it out there in the world. If you're interested in using DxO Photolab, maybe you've not used it before, or you just want to see how somebody else uses it. So today's image is actually from last weekend. And this is South Island of New Zealand on a bit of a holiday. And I went out with the hopes that there was going to be a stunning sunset. And it was a really lovely evening, but we didn't get that fire in the sky. So I think this is a really interesting edit, and there's a lot of local adjustments in this one. So if you're interested in seeing some of the different local adjustment functionality, this might be a really good demonstration for you, because I'm going to make a few global edits, but most of what I'll do will be in the various local adjustment tools. And so where am I headed with this? Well, you can probably see my film strip down the bottom here. And this is I've tried a few edits on this one. It's a fairly complex one. And this is my one that I've been most happy with. So this is the one I'll be sort of aiming to replicate in this video today. I've actually, as I said, a lot of local adjustments. So I've made myself some notes, actually, it's easy to, when you're replicating these things, to forget a step, whereas as I was editing this, I probably came back to it 2 or 3 times, which I think, it's an important thing to think about, especially with more complex images, is that, I don't know, your brain can get messed up, can it? And you start losing perspective on how it even looks. So stepping away and coming back to it can be really, really helpful. So this is what I'm marching towards. I tend towards trying to keep things reasonably subtle, so I just want to enhance the features that are here a little bit. So let's jump in, and I'll show you what I've done to get there. So I've got just a virtual copy, essentially. So this one here is the same image, just a virtual copy of it, and everything's been reset. So if I click compare, you probably see a little bit of the vignetting from the lens being removed, and that's just DxO's automatic settings. It automatically corrects for distortion and for vignetting, and it adds some lens sharpness as well, just sort of by its default if you don't turn it off. So here we have it. So I'll just start and work my way across. I don't tend to dive into the detail of the software too much. But just to say that the basic structure has some different tabs across here. This is sort of your exposure, your light, your color, your details, and noise reduction and sharpening and whatnot are in here. Perspective, cropping, horizon, stuff like that sits in here. Local adjustments will sit in here, and then effects over here. It'll vary what's in there depending on what you have installed. So I've got Film Pack installed, and I've got what's the other one called, Viewpoint, installed. So that kind of pads out what options I have in there. So starting with exposure, I'm going to come over here, just turn this bit on, instead of curiosity. Wonder what it would do if I did that. Not a thing. It's pretty happy with what my camera thought was a good exposure. So that's fine. I'm going to just pop in a, no, not a 0.4, but a minus 0.4. And the reason I'm doing a minus 0.4 is to pull that sky down a little bit. There's a couple of ways to go with this. I could do local adjustments to pull down the sky. I've opted with this image, because of the amount of variation in the sky. I made a pretty decent mask of it on an earlier attempt, but it's reasonably tricky. So I actually thought it's just an easier way to go, to base my base exposure off of the sky and then raise other things as I wanted. It just seemed to make more sense. So I just want to bring the basic exposure on that sky down a bit, and I'm going to impact this some more as I go. And I am going to, that's all I'm going to do in here right now. I'm going to come back and do some tone curve adjustment later on, but I'm just going to leave that for now. I'm going to pop over here to color. And so it's got this at about 5400. I'm actually going to just give this a little, not too much. What's that, about 5600? And just pump up that warmth just a little bit. But again, I'm going to sort of enhance that. And I think overall, I'll pump the vibrance up, not heaps, maybe 10 for now. So again, just going after sort of some basic things. I'm not going to touch color rendering on this, so that's just set to, DxO obviously is quite well known for the work they do with individual cameras and profiling and that sort of thing. So this is just the generic profile that they've made for D750, Nikon D750. So that will be fine. I will leave that as it is. I'm not going to do anything here. I'm not going to add toning. I'm not going to mess with individual colors at this point. Yeah, nice. Now I'm just going to pop over here to the space where I'm going to get my horizon tool. I feel as though that's not quite. And interestingly, I have to say DxO is generally really, really good at this sort of auto thing that it does for horizon. But I actually feel like that's not quite right. So through some experimentation, I decided to turn it on to show you. In general, that's almost always all I ever do, is click that, because it tends to nail it every time. But I'm guessing just the mountains and the fact that it's so dark have led it a little bit astray. Either that or my eye is freaking out. So with some experimentation, I sort of decided that I was quite pleased with -0.2. Just give my brain a chance to settle in on that. When it first made the jump, I was like, no, that's wrong. Oh, it's gone down back to 0. So my -0.2 didn't stick. -0.2. That is why my brain is saying it's not right. Let's try. There we go. There we go. That looks nicer. Cool. Excellent. So the horizon, just a little shift, but it just felt like it was a touch off to me. And I just have crop on for now. I'm actually going to alter my crop a little bit, but I can do that later on. So for now, it'll just take the little edges that come about from twisting it and get rid of those. So that is all good. Yeah. I think I'll go ahead and start to jump into my local adjustments. So popping in here, so I find when I pop a local adjustment on, so let's get a control line here. If I just do this and come down here and do show mask, and let's see, and get this onto something dark. Again, this is quite a bit of, between that water and those mountains, there's quite a bit of variation, and I can fine tune it reasonably, but I just found actually just making 2 of them was just a bit easier. So I'm going to pop that down there. I'm going to bring this back down. Bring this down there. That's probably pretty good. And I'm going to come over here to the adjustments and just see what I can do in terms of that. That's looking pretty. I'm leaving a little bit of. Just going to bring that down and that. To the horizon line maybe. And then if there's a bit of bleed over, I won't mind it too much. Cool. So I will call that good enough. And what am I going to do here? So I'm thinking about this water. I want to just probably impact the overall tone of it a bit. And I'm going to use the highlights, midtones, shadows, and blacks here to do that. So I'm going to bring my highlights up quite a bit on that, just hopefully to bring a bit of contrast in there. Bring my midtones up a bit as well. And even my shadows. Just kind of, obviously I've gone the furthest on the highlights there. I'm just going to, I don't think I'd be anywhere near, but I'll ping on my sort of highlight alert over there just in case I took anything too far. Cool. Just a little tweak there. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of black, lower the blacks, whereas I've raised everything else, just to try and maintain a decent level of contrast in there. Cool. So that's brought that up nicely, and I just want to look, I'm about to look here is why I'm about to compare again. Nice, and it's actually not impacted that hardly at all, which is what I suspected. Nice. So I'm going to do another control line. So I'm going to right click, do plus, tells the system that I want to, add a new control line. And it's still on that tool, so I don't need to do anything to change that. And I'm just going to click and drag up, try to straighten that out a little bit. Awesome. And just bung that onto some of the dark mountain. See how we go there. Oops, go this way with that. Nice. And I'm going to, that should be a fine mask. It should do the job just nicely for what I'm after. I'm going to raise my shadows a bit so that that's not going to absolute sort of crunchy black, so to speak. I still want there to be contrast, but I just want those to be, just gonna come up here and, yep, no, that's all good. And, but again, in perspective of keeping the contrast, I'm gonna just do that. So I'll just stretch out those tones a little bit. Nice. I'm just going to zoom in for a second. Hold my spacebar so that I can navigate this. Nice. That'll be. Oh, when it updated, I thought it was a bit too far. Maybe back down to 25. Back up to 30. Try that. Cool. So let me see. So that's sort of impacted that that at the bottom. I'm just going to pop back to my other control line here and just see. I maybe went a little intense with those highlights. I'm just going to bring that back a bit. Cool. I will leave that there for now. Nice one. Right. So now thinking about what to do next, maybe I'll do a different kind of thing, and so I'm going to do a straight up graduated filter on the sky. Now I've placed that not well. I started way too low, so I'm just going to grab it and pull it back up again. And do that. Awesome. And I don't mind if the tips of those mountains are just nibbling in there, because it is graduated. There'll be almost nothing on those. Nice. So yeah, I'm just gonna lower my exposure a touch. As they say, to bring a bit of sort of drama into that sky. I don't want to go too far. I find sometimes, because it does look quite dramatic, I find sometimes it's easy to, really add too much. So I'll just try and bring that down a little bit. Nice. Cool. Oh, the midtones is not what I was after. I was after shadows. Just to, again, to keep that from going too intense. Cool. We'll try that. I'm going to add a little something else to that sky as well, in the form of a little bit of clear view. So if I can go ahead and do that now. If I put this here, I'm not going to put it on the graduated filter because of the way that edges off, and I actually want the clear view to impact more of the sky. The reason I'm not using clear view globally on the whole image is I find it makes the water look a little chunky. So I really like, it adds very quickly adds a nice little something to the sky. But I don't love how it looks on the water, so I'm just going to add it here. So I did plus, and I'm on graduated, no, and I want to be back on control line. There we go. And I'll just pull that back down. Let's try to grab somewhere there, show mask. I think that'll be fine. I think that'll be fine for a mask. I'll just try the adjustment and see what I think. So I'm going to add just a bit of clear view, not heaps. 13, maybe 10. Yeah, we'll go ahead with that. So this is just giving you a sense that sky, just brought it down a little bit, added a little bit more definition to the cloud structure. So that's all looking good. I'm just going to check my list and see how I'm going here. So yeah, cool, awesome. So now another new tool. So the next thing I'm, obviously a big feature of this image is the wharf going out, and I just want to make sure that wharf sort of stands out and looks nice. So I'm going to actually use the auto mask brush on this, and just as long as that center dot stays in the wharf, I should be all good. So I'm going to click that, and with the auto brush, so yeah, cool. So again, just doing some toning. I've got the highlights, midtones, shadows, and blacks here. So just going to raise these a bit. And I want to use all of these in slightly different ways, because I don't want to flatten it out too much, which is pretty easy to happen. Let's see. I'm going to bring the shadows back down a touch. Blacks back down a touch. Now I'm just trying to find that space. Got a little bit of a lag there. Let me just turn. So if I come over here and I'm on this mask, and I can turn just that on and off with that button. Cool. So that's actually added nice depth, but I want a touch more. I'm going to just maybe bump this exposure up that way and get a touch more. Nice. Yeah, I like to see by using these different tones, it's sort of highlighted the strips that go along there, um, which I quite like the look of. And so I don't want to go too far with this because, you know, obviously the wharf is going to look funny if it like blasts out of the scene. So nice. I think I'm going to leave that there. I can always come back to it. You know, if I change my mind later on, I can come back to that. Nice. So let's move on. So the sky. So now thinking about the sky again, and sort of but leaning towards the color this time. I'm gonna come in here, do a plus. I'm gonna grab a control point, and I'm gonna come over here on part of this, you know, really nice color that was there, and I'm going to do a couple things. So I'm gonna first I'm gonna bump that up a bit in terms of its warmth, and then I'm also gonna bump that up a bit in terms of its vibrancy. Again, I won't want to go too far with it. I'm just kind of going to come through here and pick some spots. It's even a little bit of, you know, it's that cloud doesn't feel right with that warmth on it. So I just did an undo. I just took Control Z. Nice. And I'm going to just pop back up here and just going to think I'm going to just add maybe a little bit more contrast into the highlights there in those places that I've selected for their color. And maybe just drop the shadows a little touch. So let me see how that's gone. Nice. So just a nice warmth enhancement. I'm going to just have a quick, because you see the red, the warmth coming down here in this. I'm just going to pop one on here too and see. Yeah, so that I find a bit too much for that spot. So I'm going to undo that. And I'm just going to do a new control point and do the same things, but just to a lesser degree. So I'm going to maybe bump that up, maybe not quite as warm, but still warmer, and vibrance, but not as much. Because it doesn't feel right for that to be more vibrant than the sky, the original source. Nice. Okay. Cool. So I think I'm happy enough with that for now. Let's see. So the clear view I have done. Now another thing when I was looking at this image and thinking about it that I wanted to do was make sure, you know how the further away a mountain is, sort of the lighter, because there's more atmosphere between it. So I wanted to enhance that a little bit, just looking at this one here. So again, just a new control point. I did the plus, and the control point is in fact what I want. And I'm just going to pop here and raise my shadows. Not much, eh? Just a smidge. Let's just see. Yeah, nice. Just gives it that. I might even go just a hair more. Maybe take it up to about 10. See what that looks like. Yeah, it just enhances that depth to me. So I quite like that. It gives a lighter portion as well to sort of pull you into the image at the head of that wharf. So nice. I will leave that as good. Lovely. Okay, so the next thing that I did, so I was, and I'm still, even now, not 100% sure about this adjustment, but, you know, so if we come here, let me just hold my space bar, scroll over. There are some highlights, and these aren't blown. you know, they're there, they're in detail, they're just quite contrasty. So I have opted so far to pull a bit of the oops, that's, I didn't do plus, and you see what's happened there. So that's kind of caught on to the last adjustment. So I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to right click, click plus, and then I'm going to grab that. So, and I just come in here and just bung the highlights down a little bit, just to take it just a smidge of the heat out of those, and come across there, and just, I think I prefer that. I think I prefer that. It's not much. Just takes a touch of that intensity out. Yeah. I will leave that as is. Nice. Now, if I just, I'm kind of, so depending on how I'm doing things, here I've zoomed to 100 with the 1:1, and I'm about to go back to fill the screen here like this. So something that I wanted to do was to just bring these midtones just a touch more in the water. So I've just got a regular brush here, the feather's at 100, and I'm just gonna make it a bit bigger, and I'm just gonna literally like boom and boom, and just gonna maybe do that. Where do we go with that? Let's see. Yeah, that might be too much again. Cool. No worries. It's a tricky bit, you know, adding the depth to the water, so that it looks kind of reflective and whatnot. Cool. I'm just going to turn that off and on. See if I've actually improved it. Yeah, I think I like that. I think it does look a little touch more reflective. Awesome. Exactly my hope. Now the last thing, just one more thing, is another quick graduated filter with a twist. So I'm going to right click, and this is down at the bottom. Do plus, right click again, choose my graduated filter. I essentially want it all to be so just as low as I can get it, basically, and then I don't want to put a vignette on this image, because, you know, basically I don't want it to be circular and all the way around, but I do want to stop the eye at that border a little bit. So I just want to bring that down there a little, maybe like that. Let me just see. Nice. Yeah, I think maybe even a touch more. Yeah, nice. So I'm quite happy with that. But the twist here is the fact that, you know, this graduated filter now, of course, is also going across my wharf, and I want my wharf to lead in. So I'm actually not wanting to dim that down as much. So I'm going to just right click and grab my eraser tool, and this graduated filter is still the one that's selected. So if I just come on here, and I'm not going to go right to the edges, because I'm actually okay with there being sort of some definition there, but I'm just going to take it out of that portion there. And then now if I look at that graduated filter, we should see that it's not really, it's still impacting the edges of the wharf, which I think I actually like. I think it helps to add a bit more depth to it, but it's not impacting the whole thing. Nice. Cool. So I think that that's looking really good. So two more little things that I will do. One of those is to check for dust. And I've got lots of ways to check for dust. There's no dedicated tool in DxO, but I find if you turn on clear view and crank it, everything gets nice and crunchy. And I won't bore you with doing heaps of this, but you can just see that the dust spots. I took sensor cleaning stuff with me on my trip, but I did not actually use it. So anyway, so I'm just gonna grab my repair tool, just do a wee boom, do a wee boom, do a wee boom. And with this, if you're ever, you don't love where it's come from, if you do show masks, it'll show you that. And if I click on that, it'll show where it's chosen its. So again, if you're not happy with it, you can go through with that. Excellent. So that, and then in terms of other things that I wanted to do, well, first of all, I want to turn off clear view again. I want to back out, and I'm going to just add a wee little bit of, just looking at the histogram here. I got a bit of space there, and I thought just to pull that. Oh, look at that! Look at that! Even as I say that, I suddenly noticed that I had my highlight warnings on, and I know that I'm just going to pop back here. Now I didn't on this version go through and name these, but I have actually found when you get this many, it is really, really, really helpful to name them as you go along. So now if you get to this point, so I'm going to click on here, just grab that. Not sure which one's which, but yeah, it does look like this is where I've done the increased temperature and the increased, but I also thought to myself, oh, I'll just bump up those highlights a little bit, but I might have gotten a bit carried away with that. So I'm going to pull that back and just come back out of here. No, even still. So I might want to go the opposite way, local adjustments, and actually protect a bit of highlights in these selections. Let's see what that's done. Yeah, cool. That's gotten it. So yeah, like I said, naming, great idea. If I flick over to this image for a second, you can see I have gone through and named them, and I've also missed the same thing on this image. So I will go back and repair that later on as well. Nice. Cool. So that just coming back here, I know that I want to crop this a little bit, and I'm just going to do it in an unconstrained. I'm just going to pull that in a touch, and pull that in a touch as well, and maybe pull that down just a smidge. It's not exact. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. The reason I've pulled down from the top, and I still haven't decided if this is a good idea or not, is that if this is up all the way, this is gray here. I thought that if this was down, grab hold, there we go, that if this was down, that this could be a path in, because it flows in. And I think for me, it is more of a path in than a path out. So anyway, that's why I've cropped that top down a little bit. Nice. And I will just explore, although seeing how these are, it's probably, on the other image, you could see there was some blown highlights as well. So I might have done that with this adjustment here. Yeah, look, instantly it starts to blow. So yeah, on the other image, I had actually done this whole thing, but I'm not going to do that on this one because I don't want to blow those highlights out. I'm just going to leave that be. I'll just check if if I want a smidge of blacks. 3. Yeah, nice. I think that does well. Excellent. So that is the edit for today. So quite a lot of local adjustments. Hopefully you have found that helpful, interesting. Like I said, it's always a work in progress. One thing I've found with the images that I've recorded videos for is that I'll often go back the next day and tweak something. To me, it really is sort of an iterative process. We process these things, we come back, we look at them, and then we make other decisions. But I think I'm pretty happy with this, and let's see how I always like to check and see how I went with matching. How much does this match this one? Not too bad. I think this one's got a little bit better contrast, doesn't it? But not to be surprised, because I did spend a bit more time with it, and I did blow these highlights out. So with that, I will say thanks so much for watching. This will have been a little bit of a longer one, but hopefully it's been worth it. Hope to see you again. Cheers. Bye-bye.